Hi, everyone. Father Kevin with you this week from St. James in Casanova as we're coming to the end of the month of May. It may seem at times like time is flying or time is going very slow. So whatever the experience for you, here we are. So I have a couple things to reflect upon today, and I'll be referring to my notes because a couple of them have quotes that I think are important to refer to. You know, one of the things that I've heard from other people, and I've certainly experienced myself, is that at times you have these unexplained feelings of sadness, anxiety, worry, or perhaps even depression that suddenly come upon you. And maybe even moments when you are very impatient and you get angry. And as we've reflected before, all of these feelings are natural in going through something like this pandemic. I received an article this week from one of our staff members at St. James that really is helpful in explaining the why of those feelings, the source of those feelings for the most part, and how it is that we can manage them constructively. And this really great article, which comes from the Harvard Business Review of all places, is an excellent article, and I'll post where you can find it on our website this coming week. The article is written by Scott Baronato, who is the senior editor of the Harvard Business Review, and the title of the article is "This Comfort You Are Feeling is Grief." And what Scott reflects upon is that in a call with all the other editors of the Business Review, they talked for a moment about how everyone was feeling. And one of his colleagues said that she was feeling grief. And he noted that everyone else was nodding their heads, which led him to consult with one of the foremost experts in grief, which would be David Kessler, who wrote with Elizabeth Kubler-Ross about grief in some of those famous writings that are very helpful in dealing with grief in general. And so Kessler shared some thoughts with Scott about why it's important to acknowledge these feelings that we're having, that they are connected to grief, and that he believes that there is a way to find meaning in them as well as coping with those feelings. Kessler began by saying that there's any number of reasons that we're feeling grief right now. Most of all, it's the loss of our routines, the loss of things that are familiar to us as we celebrate Memorial Day weekend, the usual traditional things that are part of our personal experience of Memorial Day weekend are not present with us. We're anticipating what they call anticipatory grief, the loss of things like high school graduations, seniors walking across the stage to receive their diploma, maybe a summer vacation that's not going to happen, or things in the future that we might anticipate will be different. All of this causes us grief. So how is it that we can manage that grief and deal with it constructively? So just a few quick things. First of all, we have to accept that we have these feelings and that it's okay that we have them and that indeed it's healthy that we have those emotions. But here's the thing that can help us, and you have heard these from other people as well. So they're not anything new, but this article really puts it into a really brief but helpful perspective. First of all, it's important to remember to live in the present. That when you're feeling grief or anxiety or worry or you're feeling angry, stop, breathe. If you're in your room or in your office, just take a moment to notice simple things around you, your desk, your computer, maybe the picture of your dog, the chair that you're sitting in, all of the things around you, and try to focus on being in the moment, that you're perhaps comfortable, you've been able to have breakfast, lunch, or dinner, and you're safe. And to keep that in mind, that helps. Secondly, he said, we really have to let go of the idea that we're in control here of a lot of things. And I think that's hard for us because we do like to be in control. But there are things that we can control that we should keep in mind. For example, practicing social distancing, wearing a mask, and making sure that we wash our hands frequently and use our hand sanitizers. 3 of the simple, most effective ways to protect ourselves and others from the coronavirus, and consistently doing that. Secondly, he said that because we have these feelings, we should stock up on compassion, that we should realize that all these people around us, whether or not we notice it or not, are feeling these same things too: anxiety, worry, grief, and that because of that, we can help them and help ourselves by being compassionate. And in a religious sense, as Jesus speaks today about in the gospel about he came to show us who the Father was, God is a God of compassion and care and kindness to all of us, just as Jesus exhibited. And we're called to do the same. And that compassion and kindness not only, again, helps others, but helps ourselves, rather. A couple final things. Remember, the pandemic's not forever. We're going to get through this. It's going to take time. We even have some promising news, perhaps about vaccines, but it will not go on forever. We just have to stay with it and stay with the practices that I know are difficult to do, but are the ones that keep us safe. And finally, as always, to be grateful that there's people out there on the front lines risking themselves to take care of the sick, but also to provide for us those primary services that we're receiving, at places like our grocery store. That gratitude goes a long way. So keep those things in mind. And again, I'll refer to this article. Again, it's at the Harvard Business Review. The title, "The Discomfort You're Feeling is Grief." Now on to a matter of business. You'll be hearing that the bishop has approved the, quote, opening of parishes. That may lead you to believe that we're going to be back and celebrating Mass at full force in a matter of weeks, but that's not the case. What the bishop is asking us to do as pastors is to have a celebration of Mass beginning on Pentecost, and we'll have one at St. James, one at St. Patrick's on Sunday. No vigil Masses, we're not ready for that yet, but it's only for 10 people. And the 10 people that will be included in those groups for probably some weeks to come will be people who can help me to organize and manage what's going to happen when we're able to move to a larger scale. There are a lot of details. There are a lot of things that we're responsible for taking care of that are actually very complex. It's not only about what you would need to do in coming to church, which would be to sanitize before you leave home, to be wearing a mask, to sanitize as you're coming in church, to bring hand sanitizer with you, to be socially distant. All of these things that will have to take place, and organizing that and bringing people into church and seating them in proper places, it's complex. And we need to understand how we do that, so I'll bring in people for the Masses that can help me in that regard for both St. James and St. Patrick's. You'll also hear mentioned probably about things like parking lot Masses. That is equally, if not more, complex in terms of train volunteers to park your cars, and this is something we could only do at St. Patrick's. Parking cars in parking spaces every other space, closing off the parking spaces you're not using with something. That would be like 60 cones. And doing it in a way where you could provide sound and visual so that people from their cars could celebrate Mass. And then, after all that, to be able to allow people to come forward to communion, which is complex, wearing masks. I'm not wearing a mask. It's a lot, everybody. So I ask your patience, as the bishop will. This is in its very early stages. And the bottom line to all of it is that we've got to figure out ways to do this in a safe and organized fashion for you, for those who are ministers assisting, and I should mention also for myself, so that none of us are put in danger. There are a lot of stipulations. We'll publish those for you in terms of what it would be for those who are able to come to church. It's lengthy. I won't go into it right now. Finally, I'd like to say that in all of this, in terms of church, because unfortunately some of this gets politicized at times, what will drive our decisions in terms of how we open is not only the directives of the governor, which we must follow strictly, but also what science tells us is safe. I know we have feelings sometimes like, well, let's just go for it. Well, let's just have Mass and we'll all be safe. Well, I understand those feelings. But the important part is that we've got to do it in a way that we know is safe. We don't want to be responsible for the illness or death of others because we didn't follow the protocol that has been put out there in detail. And there are pages and pages of protocol that we have to follow for Mass wherever we conduct it. So remember to stay safe, to be patient, to pray. There's promising things like vaccines that they think might be working and that they're even producing in case they are. And as always, to be so grateful for people out there doing things for us. So thanks a lot, and a more extended message today. We'll see you again in next week's recording when it will be Pentecost. Happy Memorial Day weekend to all if you're viewing this over the weekend, and a big word out to all of those who have sacrificed their lives for the freedoms we enjoy. Have a great day, everybody.